To be here with you guys today. Finally, we got what we asked for. It's about damn time. After demanding it, clamoring for it, Team USA finally puts Caitlin Clark into the starting lineup. However, everything that glitters ain't gold.
Caitlin Clark finally got her first Team USA start against New Zealand. Question for you, did Team USA just quietly admit they had to trust Caitlin Clark more? Comment yes or no if you think they did, and if it was about time, because that is the real story from this game. The final score says Team USA beat New Zealand 101-46 in another blowout. Clark finished with 14 points and 6 assists.
Start the game, great start by New Zealand.
Caitlin Clark tries again. This time it's good.
On the surface, that sounds like just another solid stat line in a game Team USA was always expected to win. But that is not what made this game important. What made this game important is that something changed before the opening tip. For the first time in this tournament, Caitlin Clark was in the starting lineup. And that changes the entire conversation, because a few days ago, the story around Clark was all about her coming off the bench. People were asking why she was not starting. People were debating whether Team USA was easing her in, protecting her, or still trying to figure out how much they trusted her in this environment. But against New Zealand, that question got a very different answer. They started her. And once they did, the game immediately became about more than points. It became about role. It became about trust.
Looking for Clark.
Angel Reese has been so good cleaning the glass that I'm guessing that she does not.
1.5-minute mark of the first half. USA up big, 49-18. Caitlin Clark, no one steps up, drives, kicks it to Becker.
And it became about what Team USA is really learning about Caitlin Clark in this tournament. That is why this game matters. Not because New Zealand pushed Team USA to the limit. They did not. Not because Clark had a crazy 30-point explosion. She did not. This mattered because Team USA changed her role, and Clark responded the way stars respond: calm, efficient, in control. Early in the game, Clark gave everyone the exact image they were waiting for: a deep three. That one shot mattered because it instantly reminded everyone that even in a loaded Team USA lineup, Clark still has a unique kind of pressure on a defense. The moment she crosses half court, the floor feels different. Defenders think differently. The spacing changes, the urgency changes, and even in a blowout, that stands out. But the interesting part is that Clark did not force the game.
Even just holding the ball so they can see it. They steal it just like that. If they see the ball, they can get their hands on it.
After that, she did not start hunting shots. She did not turn the game into a personal statement. She let the game come to her. That is part of why this performance is so important. Because sometimes the loudest way to prove you belong is not by forcing a headline. It is by showing you can run the game cleanly inside a stacked roster without disrupting everything around you. That is what Clark did here. She finished with 14 points, 6 assists, 2 steals, and 0 turnovers. 0 turnovers, that part cannot be ignored, because when people talk about international basketball, one of the first things they bring up is discipline, decision-making, pace, reading pressure, protecting the ball. So for Clark to get her first start, handle a major role, and finish with 0 turnovers says a lot more than just the scoring total. It says she looked comfortable. It says she looked settled. And most importantly, it says Team USA could trust her with more. The score also helps tell the story. New Zealand briefly hung around early. For a moment, this was not a total runaway. But once Team USA found another gear, the game was over fast. The United States closed the first quarter with a huge run, led 27-12 after one, then won the second quarter 27-6. By halftime, it was 54-18. That is domination. And in games like that, you learn something interesting about stars. Sometimes the box score gets spread around because the team is so deep. Sometimes another score leads the game. Sometimes the highlights are shared across 5 or 6 players, but you can still tell who is shaping the flow. Clark was one of those players. She was not the only reason Team USA dominated, but she was clearly one of the players driving the machine. And that is the bigger point here. This was not one of those nights where Clark needed to prove she could put up numbers. She had already done that earlier in the tournament. She already showed what she could do against Senegal. She already showed she could produce in limited minutes. This game was more about whether Team USA would move her into a more trusted role. They did, and she justified it. The third quarter is probably the best example. That is when Clark really heated up. She scored 6 points in the quarter on 2 layups and a step-back jumper, and it felt like the game completely settled into her rhythm for a stretch. That is a useful detail because it shows this was not just one early three-pointer and a bunch of quiet minutes after that. She had another clear scoring burst later in the game that pushed her total higher and reminded everyone how quickly she can build momentum. Then there was the passing. One of the cleanest moments came when Clark set up Kiki Iriafen for an easy bucket. It looks simple, but that is part of what makes Clark dangerous. She creates easy points that do not always feel dramatic until you look up and realize the defense is constantly reacting to her. And that is why 6 assists matters. Not because 6 is some giant number by itself, but because it matched the eye test. She looked like one of Team USA's offensive engines. She looked like someone the team could play through, not just play around. That is a huge difference. Because when Clark was coming off the bench, the debate was easy to frame. People could say Team USA was being cautious. They could say the roster was crowded. They could say the staff wanted balance. But once she moves into the starting lineup and still looks this comfortable, the debate changes. Now the question is not, should she be trusted? Now the question is, how big should her role become? That is where this gets really interesting heading into the final game against Spain. Because this New Zealand matchup may look like just another blowout in the standings, but for Clark, it feels like a turning point. It feels like the game where Team USA quietly told everyone that her place is growing. And to be honest, they almost had no choice. Clark has been too productive in this tournament to ignore. She has scored efficiently. She has led with her passing. She has looked more in control with each game. And now the coaching staff gave her the start. That does not happen by accident. That happens because what they are seeing in practice, in games, and inside this tournament is matching what fans have been saying for a while. She changes the offense. Even when she is not the top scorer, she changes the offense. Even when she is not dominating the ball every possession, she changes the offense. That is what special guards do. And that is why this performance should not be judged only by whether 14 points feels big enough. That misses the point. The point is that Clark stepped into a bigger role and made it look normal. That is powerful, because the hardest thing for a young star on a loaded national team is not always making highlights. Sometimes the hardest thing is making a complicated situation look easy. Fitting into a veteran roster, playing with pace, making the right reads, knowing when to score and when to organize, not forcing the issue, not wasting possessions. Clark did all of that. And she did it in her first start. So yes, Team USA crushed New Zealand. Yes, the final score was ugly. Yes, this roster is deep enough that one player never has to do everything. But if you were watching closely, the biggest takeaway was simple. Caitlin Clark's role changed. And once it changed, she looked ready for even more. That is why this game matters. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was revealing. It revealed that Team USA is getting more comfortable putting the ball in Clark's hands. It revealed that Clark can start and still keep the offense flowing. And it revealed that the old bench storyline is starting to lose its power. Because when you finally get the start and the game immediately looks this smooth, people stop asking whether you belong. They start asking how far this can go. And that is the real story from USA versus New Zealand. If you're still watching, comment yes if you think Team USA has finally made its Caitlin Clark decision. The one small change I'd still consider is replacing the last line with, if you're still watching, comment yes if you think Team USA finally made the right call with Caitlin Clark.